everybody. Welcome to another glorious episode of Jeff Has Cool Friends. My name is Jeff May, and you are never going to believe what I have for you today. It is a cool friend. My cool friend today is an amazing and talented writer, comedian, performer, and just absolutely brilliant person. Let's give it up for the hilarious Kyle Ayers, everyone. Nope, that was a stand-up intro.
Yeah, that's okay.
I expected applause to come up.
Wait, if I could just do it. All right, do it.
I'm going to do it again.
Wait, no, I don't have applause.
You don't have applause on there? There's nothing ever to clap about.
Just a laugh track.
People laughing as you're coming up. Oh,
or
good. I can't hear that.
Oh, you can't hear the booing?
No, maybe it'll come through.
Zoom.
Maybe it'll come through. Usually when I start an episode, I always say, we met at blank. I always say, here's how we started our friendship or whatever. I don't remember if it was softball or if it was comedy.
It's probably got to be softball.
Right? It seems like it would be, but that wasn't that long ago.
Like a summer,
it was like last year ago, maybe, or 2 years.
A year and a summer ago, because we did, and then last year I broke my foot around this time, maybe like a week earlier, a year ago, and then didn't play any more softball.
No, how'd you break your foot?
Walking. Well, taking a step. I was actually my first step.
Starting to walk.
Ever. Yeah, I took one step off of a curb and my foot popped, and I thought it looked big. Yeah.
What did the doctor say about that? I know this isn't about necessarily the show's about your foot, but like, I need to know more.
No, it was like, I didn't go for a day. I was just thought it might be hurting a little bit. And then my foot wouldn't fit in my slip-on sandal anymore. And I was like, well, it probably does look bigger. And I looked down and I was like, that doesn't, it doesn't even look like swelling.
Did I step on a scorpion?
Right. It looks protruding.
Oh.
So then I went to the hospital and they're like, oh yeah, it's broken.
It's broken.
Yeah. So.
And they were like, hey, maybe some calcium? Or was it just like a freak accident?
Just like a freak accident. I feel like gravity ravaged my foot. And, it's a nice sign of aging is just you get the worst injury of your life standing.
I don't know why I'm trying to pretend that's not going to happen to me. Like I still go to the gym for boxing every day, and I'm like, this will never end. And
yeah, you might not fix your bones from breaking, but you'll have a better heart.
But someday it's going to happen where I'm just going to be too old for this, and I'm going to be like all cocky, and somebody's going to hit me and like break my ribs or something like that.
There probably is a point where the greatest 60-year-old boxer would lose to like a 20-year-old who had caffeine.
Yeah, an average 20-year-old. Yeah, a hyper 20-year-old. Right. Yeah. It is funny because I was actually having this conversation at softball yesterday where I was like, I'd rather have a freak accident at boxing than at softball.
Sure.
Because a freak accident at boxing is like, oh, I got my head punched into the corner of a wall, which is a thing that has happened to me. And I'm like, I got a mild concussion.
It's why you see like professional athletes, non-contact injuries ruin their careers.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, if you hurt yourself walking and then you grab your knee, it's over.
Yep. It's one of those things where like an injury, a freak occurrence in softball is you broke your leg and now you have to find a way to get to your car and get to the emergency.
Yeah, that's not even like taking into account that the less helpful people at softball than boxing. Like
people in boxing know how to handle it. If you're playing comedy softball, there are 3 useful people on the entire field, maybe.
Yeah.
And they don't want to have to deal with this.
They're the 3 who are drinking.
Yeah, they're hardcore alcoholics because they carry such a burden on them over the week that they just have to. Yeah, I guess it must have been softball, but I was just like, oh, I like this guy. He's really funny. Which is, it doesn't happen all the time. Not everybody appeals to everybody's sensibilities.
It's easy to befriend someone at softball who is not so competitive that it's unfun.
Yeah. Yes, there are some people that have come to this game that you're just like, hey, maybe you should just not be here anymore. And then they disappeared. That level, like, there's a difference, I guess, between like the fun level of competitiveness where it's clearly a bit.
Yeah.
Versus the like, oh, that guy's really stewing over there.
Right. I think Jono was very good at that line with like hustling. There definitely is like, you can tell if it actually matters or if they just own a baseball jersey that would be fun to wear.
Yeah, there is that, and it creates some fun rivalries, and it was really fun. And I was like, okay, I really like this guy, and then I think we bumped into each other a couple more times, and I was like, I need you on Mint on card, like to come do the show.
Yeah,
and you actually just did the show on Friday.
Yeah, a few days ago.
Yeah. So like 4 days ago, you did the show, Murdered, getting ready for, you have a show coming up. You're doing an hour at the Elysian about, it's what, September 15th.
September 15th.
If you are Los Angeles people, the Elysian Theater, September 15th.
Yeah, it's a cool place. I've never actually been there, but I hear it's a very cool venue.
It is. Yeah, it is a really cool spot. And so the show is about trigeminal neuralgia and your experiences with it, which is otherwise known as the suicide disease. So, hey, what's that? Hey, what's that like? You're going to Jimmy Fallon, the suicide disease. Wow, that's crazy. What's that like?
So your trigeminal nerve is a huge nerve in the side of your face that basically looks like brain roots would be the way I would describe it. It's sort of like spraying off through the side of your face. Huge nerve. Mine malfunctions, and it basically like jolts electric shock in my face pretty constantly. It's a kind of a thing. Yeah.
Wow, man, that's crazy.
Hey, we want to spin this wheel?
Yeah. Hey, let's play Mall Madness together.
Yeah, it's just been a thing I've had for a long time that I used to think was a dental thing, and then finally got diagnosed, and then I've been through surgeries, and then the surgeries quit, like the alleviation, I don't think that's a word, from the surgeries wore off, and so now I'm sort of back to like negative square one, which I think
how long did they last?
About like 8 or 9 months.
So it's what, like, that surgery cost you what, like $500,000?
It's really infinity. Some stuff is so expensive that it's free. You know what I mean?
They look at you like,
it's like
your children's children will pay for this, or it's nothing.
It's literally like I'm saying I own the moon.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you couldn't possibly afford the moon. I'm like, nah, I'm gonna have that. But not just that surgery, but the 7 or 8 MRIs and weekly injections leading up, and pain management stuff since then. And like, I go to urgent care fairly frequently, and my insurance changes all the time. And so it's just sort of, it's like if like urgent care was my Cheers.
Yeah. Kyle.
And I'm just like, put it on an old tab, and they will to a point, and then they'll stop and you go to a different one.
Have you considered heroin?
Well, I've had fentanyl injections, and
really,
the heroin of the North, which is a bad improv team name. They try all sorts of different like pain management things, and they were like, some people, we experiment with these. And also sometimes you go to urgent care or to a doctor and they don't know, and so they just want to do something.
They're like, well, you got to get your $100 worth.
Right. And so then they give you something, and it doesn't. Yeah. The times I've had something like a fentanyl injection, it just made me feel cold and like I wanted to do drugs. Like, I'm not just making a joke. I was just like, oh, this could ruin everyone's life.
Yeah, my brother told me that, he said, I've experienced a lot of things in my life and nothing has ever felt better than injecting heroin.
I really do think that there is a reason.
Yeah, there's a reason it ruins lives.
That it's like, one time in, you'll do the worst thing you've ever thought for it,
Yeah.
I've had a lot of opioid injections and pills and things like that, and carcinogenic injections. And
carcinogenic injections?
I don't know, like, exactly.
Cancer-causing injections?
No, like, I forget what they call them. I could be using the wrong terminology.
Something.
Here.
I think carcinogenic means causing cancer.
Then probably not that.
Do a lot to have a doctor not do that to you.
Carcinogenic injections.
There it is. And, yeah. Total request injections.
No, I've from like standard medicine here to like alternate. It's not hard to find like someone who will cure you with a card.
Yeah. Have you tried burning sage?
Yeah, it tastes bad.
To cure your brain.
I really have. I've tried everything. I've tried everything that could exist. I've gone to Ojai. That's how desperate I've been.
Ooh.
I was like, maybe if I'm near 2 thrift stores that are expensive at the same time, it'll fix itself.
Have you thought about having a nice weekend in wine country?
Right. I am allergic to wine. That's unrelated, but that would be
Really? Is
my
it the
nightmare dose.
tannins or is it the grapes or?
It's something about the fermentation. I'm allergic to beer as well.
I just don't like them. I don't drink because I think they're gross.
Yeah, I never really loved beer when I developed this allergy in college. It might have been a life-saving allergy, honestly.
But yeah, right. I mean,
Wine, I was like, wine is fine, but seemed too expensive for how fast I didn't like getting drunk. I just was like, yeah, this is just like I'm drinking this like the thing with my meal. And so then it adds up.
yeah, every time I try alcohol, I get this like revolt because like I'm a big taste person,
Mhm.
and the taste of alcohol, if you're not like if you're not a regular drinker and you taste
Yeah.
alcohol, it's like ugh.
Well, if you're not hoping to taste forget, then it definitely doesn't
Yeah.
taste very good.
Yeah,
But a lot of
like
people who really like it are like, ah, there we go, goodbye.
yeah, yeah. Alcohol is really a destination game as much as everybody wants to say it's about the journey. I'm like, you
Right.
can't tell me you're
Then
enjoying
you
this.
learn all these like about alcohols. They're like, well, this one actually didn't exist until Prohibition when they had to make it in their bathtub with over-the-counter products. And now it's the drink of our city. I'm talking about Chicago and Malort.
Yeah, there
And
it
I'm
is.
just like, what are we doing?
Yeah, the
It's not
famously
illegal anymore.
delicious Malort. Yeah.
Right.
Is that, are you from Chicago?
No, I lived in Chicago for a little bit.
Okay,
I
because
did
you're
like
from
the
Kansas
second
area,
year.
right? Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. I know you're a Kansas City guy because one of the things I do on the Patreon is I when I open the packs of cards and stuff, I wherever your favorite teams are, I send people stuff.
Mhm.
And I have one person who's like a big Kansas City guy, but there's only so many Bobby Witt cards that I can send. So I'm always just like,
Mhm.
can give this to Kyle.
Oh
Like,
yeah. Well, hey man, at least he's turning it on a little bit this year, so hang on to
I
those.
mean, you got to get something, right?
That's
I
gonna
mean,
be a
the Royals,
future Hall of Famer for a different team.
yeah, long suffering team that had a good 3-year run
But
recently.
man, I saw him win the World Series. Just one of the great. I was at the game in New
Really?
York. Yeah.
I did that with the Red Sox in LA.
It feels great. It bought them a lot of time with me. I mean, the Royals could go 15 years and I'll still have that ticket stub, you know.
Yeah, I think as a New England Patriots fan,
Yeah,
I was like, I guess I can die with them never winning a game again, and I'll be like, but we had a good run.
right. It's really the amount of time like Steelers fans still can't complain, you know.
Yeah, but they
Bears
did.
fans barely can, and they had a season and a half of being great in the 80s.
Yeah, and they beat the Patriots doing it.
Yeah.
It's funny when you look at like regional sports stuff. Like I try not to be precious about like I was like it's where I was born. Like I think nationalism is ridiculous and embarrassing, but like sports nationalism, I'm all about.
It
Like
is a very bizarre thing. It's
yeah,
very bizarre to like disdain your government and disdain forced patriotism and just get up at 3 a.m. to watch the Women's World Cup.
right, dude. Like literally, this custom hat is a Red Sox hat with my initial on it because for whatever reasons, because like that's like the official uniform of New England. And I think about that and I think about how like I would be so embarrassed to wear an American flag on something I own at this point.
It's like that time that Rob Lowe just wore a hat that said NFL to the Super Bowl, and it just looked like he was there for like the love of the sport. Like he likes the corporate structure of the sport more than anything.
I was there thinking that he was like auditing the sport. Like he got a job with the NFL in their
He's the
like
city
in their
planner
office.
of the NFL.
Everyone's like, ooh, new NFL overseer Rob Lowe is here in between seasons of
And he was just sort of
show he's on.
appreciating like the officials.
I think that's the first time he's ever seen football.
For sure.
I'm gonna get like Rob Lowe to me seems like the Kirkland brand Tom Cruise, where like it seems like he would have a lot of the same proclivities and
Right.
disconnections through reality.
But he hasn't been distilled through a cult.
Yeah, and he's also
slightly
not
different.
He's also not hanging off of planes just so we can get the
Yeah.
right take. I've never seen anybody want to die more making a movie than Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I mean, he does really. This is a man who I believe wants to die making a movie and be at his own funeral, and so that's why I think he's having difficulty figuring it out.
Fair.
He wants to give his own eulogy so bad,
and hard when you don't have really a stunt double.
right? Just Ben Stiller in that sketch from the 90s.
That MTV Movie Awards sketches with Ben Stiller and I hate to say it, but Andy Dick might have been like the top level of
MTV really
parody.
pulled off "Our host isn't here yet and needs to get here" sketches really well. And they just had to like run through a bunch of like stuff,
Yeah.
and run into celebrities. They were funny.
I remember there was a Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace sketch. I don't know why I had to say the whole title, with Lisa Kudrow, and Andy Dick played Ki-Adi-Mundi, and he was like the other actual actor that wasn't a shot pulled from the movie. And he was so funny that I was just like, I forgot that there's a reason he's famous.
Yeah.
Even though he's such a mess.
I mean, you got to just really keep people cast in what they're good at.
Yeah, yeah. His is just sexually harassing himself away across LA. Did you get here in time for that, or have you been Andy Dick safe?
2017. I never have had a run in with Andrew Dick.
You might be one of the few
Andrew
people
Richard
and in LA that doesn't have an Andy Dick story.
I know. You think it's like a joke that everyone has one, and then everyone does. Like everyone you talk to is like, "Oh yeah, I was at a taco truck in Echo Park." And he walked up and said, "Let me grab the taco," or like some insane.
Yeah, he took a bite from my taco and grabbed my ass and then ran into an alley. Like that is,
it is like Bill Murray stories that people have, except they're all horrific.
Yeah, and it's also where Bill Murray's like, no one will ever believe you. Andy Dick's are like, everyone is going to believe you.
Everyone would have believed you if you made this up.
Yeah, this didn't even have to happen. The specter of Andy Dick looms over the LA comedy community.
Yeah.
So you recently, I'm not sure if you did the whole hour, but you did a tour. You went back to Kansas City.
It's still kind of like I was like working through sort of what it is. And I think it was like an hour and 10 minutes in Kansas City, cutting some stuff out, moving some stuff around now, changing some things up. It's a heavy show, but it's mostly funny. I don't like one-man shows. I don't like them. So it feels weird to do.
It's called really stand-up, man. Like you're just doing
really trying to
stand-up.
shove as much comedy in as I can. And then it's honestly, the framing of the show has just been a helpful way for people to have proper expectations for what I'm about to talk about. Because if I'm doing you've seen it, it's even, I have to like preface it to do a 10-minute set, and it still doesn't quite get the freedom of like, people are here just knowing what you're going to talk about.
I mean, I'll add that you murdered in a fully lit toy store.
It did go pretty well.
With like, what, 80 people in the audience?
Yeah, I was very much trying to do the jokier jokes to see if they fit within the thematic ideas. And it's just, but once you set it up and you're like, this is what it is, that's when you have the most freedom to go.
Yeah. I think one-man show is such a weighted term, because there's a difference between like Billy Crystal doing a one-man show and it's the stereotypical, like, fake hitting a baseball. Oh, it's going, the kind of stuff that like, Bill Hader would make fun of on an episode.
Documentary Now.
Yeah. There's that. And then there's Mike Birbiglia doing an hour of stand-up, but without a handheld mic.
Right.
Like those are so vastly different and they fall under the same umbrella.
It's so wild how people, when I did Conan, I didn't hold a microphone. They were like, hey, if you can do it with a lav, it's a lot better. But comedians always want to hold a microphone. I'm like, I don't need to hold a microphone to do this. And people, I post clips and people are like, where is this? Why would you do this? Who would do stand-up like this? What is going on? Yeah, is this a one-man show? And I'm like, if you just look to the left, do you think Andy Richter is at my one-man show on stage?
The funny part of that is like, when Carson was always a lab mic when the comedians would come out. People, I think we've really grown accustomed.
It's actually fairly recent. Like Letterman was a lav mic for a long time. Yeah, no one was using microphones. And then it's just sort of become like, maybe it looks more like stand-up.
To how you differentiate why this person is on the show. You're like, well, that person's not Carmen Electra, so I don't know why they're here. Oh, okay. They're holding.
He interviewing that guy way over there, and that guy won't shut up.
Yeah, it's just a guy crashing the show with a microphone. I got a microphone. You can't do anything about that.
It is. I've got comments about it every time I post a clip from it.
I'm always afraid that people will mock how I hold the microphone.
I don't think it's the seriousness of literal body dysmorphia, but I do believe most comedians think they look different on stage than everyone else.
Yeah, I do.
And
I look like
then
I'm
I don't think
strangling the
anyone
microphone.
notices that except you, right?
I mean, sure, because well, that's also because everybody sees you in a certain way, and I'm lucky enough to be blessed with body dysmorphia. So, boy, is that a whole ass thing. Because like
Sure.
I depending on what photo I see, I either look way too fat, way too skinny, sometimes perfect. Sometimes I'll see a picture and I'm like, this is the best picture of me that's ever
This is the
existed.
picture for the year.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But whenever I hold a mic, I have these like really meaty paws. So whenever I hold a microphone, most of it disappears and it looks like I look like a monster sometimes.
Right.
Like a photo of me holding a microphone and it looks like I'm like choking the microphone. You ever see Mike Lawrence hold the microphone?
Oh, yeah.
It is fascinating.
Yeah.
He's a guest of the show, Mike Lawrence.
Middle name is Rafone, so I could see that being part of it.
It's huge. Yeah, he's really talented, but he holds it like he's holding like a
Bob Barker
yes,
microphone from The
yes.
Price is Right.
Yeah, that's better than what I was going to say, which was Exhibit A at a court hearing.
That is not wrong, though. He holds it like it's like a baggie with a glove in it.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. It is strange to see. I've seen some people hold it like a goblet. Like
I have like started really grabbing the microphone stand for some reason. I hate that I do it.
oh, like Steve Tyler.
Like, which is with my right hand. I'll hold the mic in my left hand and just sort of be like swaying the mic stand in my right hand. Like, not even that close to me either. I'm like in scarecrow position.
You should put scarves all over it.
Oh, have it up in front of me. Yeah.
And just
maybe
and just
marry
really
a 14-year-old.
and just do ragdoll. Just sing ragdoll. That's a good open mic set, right?
Yeah. We can't get too far from baseball without talking about the guy who's dating a 14-year-old that we found out yesterday. This
Woof,
is just
right? I mean,
Wander Franco.
To be fair, it hasn't been proven yet. So
True. He allegedly is in those photos of him.
With a girl that is 14 years old. Woof.
I mean, I'm sure this will be the joke, but I saw someone say that's a minor league move, and I laughed for
oh my
like
god, that
5
is
minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. He got sent back to the minors. Yeah.
I know, dude. I'm just like, this is where the joke is there. All right.
Yeah. It's all there and it's a little easy pick. Like, could you imagine if Leno was still doing late night?
Oh, yeah. I always thought that was such an admirable thing that happened with Conan, where someone on Twitter accused Conan of stealing their joke for a monologue, and they like sued him. And Conan, I think, ended up settling or doing something, but he published this big letter. And he's like, look, this is like the end of late night monologues. Like, they can't happen anymore.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's like, do you know how many jokes I have submitted? We have 1,000 a day. Do you know how easy it is to make a joke? And he just he like wrote an open letter, but to this person that sued him, who was just someone on Twitter with like 300 followers. And, and then he kind of quit doing the monologues like that.
To think that Lori Kilmartin and Brian Kiley would ever lift a joke,
right,
is insane. They are probably the two most prolific joke writers I've ever met in my life.
Rather than you kind of tweeted first thought and they have to write 1,000 a day.
Yeah.
Like that would be like someone accusing me of stealing that minor league line. That would be the reply to every tweet, probably.
It is funny that everyone thinks they're the originator of a joke instead of like, oh yeah, we clearly, there's 9 ways you could go with a joke, sometimes. And
it just so happened there were 3 TV shows that had jokes for a while, so it was hard to see overlap.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, now, yeah, it's like some dip from Clearwater open micer that does this tweet that gets 8 faves and a retweet is now like, well, clearly I'm on the radar.
I have, right. It's just such an insane investment of time. Yeah. I'm sure Conan will hire you now and give you a bunch of money.
Yeah, now that you've made
probably know. Damn, we really wandered off. That's what I call when I wedge and Wander Franco into
when you talk about a 14-year-old.
I've been calling it that for years, but it doesn't come up as often as it has the last day.
You actually stole that from me. I said that years and years ago. So
Franco Lee, I don't give a damn.
I will tell you this, because of the whole like sports card thing and the breaking that I've done. I've joined a couple of sports card groups on Facebook just to like see what people are talking about and blah blah blah. And boy, a lot of men are real team Wander.
Sure.
They are really like, how women are.
This isn't the first time we've had to have people stand by the last name Franco for grooming, and it may not be the last.
Yeah, but this is not the theater version of it.
Correct. Although it is equally performative on his Instagram live. Yeah, I just feel like if that's your instinct, you could just be quiet for a while.
Oh, they can't.
They got
there is a 0%
They've got too many Wander Franco rookie cards from last year.
Well, a lot of people, there were some very funny comments where people were like, I guess we see a lot of people that are PCing Wander Franco, I mean, personal collection.
You gotta be like, if you love cards more than anything, you gotta know this is gonna make it worth more.
Oh, yeah, dude, the Aaron Hernandez jerseys.
Dude,
I gotta tell you, not cheap.
OJ Simpson cards, more expensive. And he actually was great at football. Like,
yeah.
It's not like he was just a guy.
He's got so many reasons to have
it's
a valuable
like that card with the Melendez brothers. Isn't that their name?
Yeah,
and they're sitting on the court side of the Knicks
Hoops,
game.
Mark Jackson.
Mark Jackson, that's right. It is like
is it sad that I knew exactly the card that you were talking about?
No, I don't think it is, because you were into cards, and that's worth more once they found that out.
You know what's funny is I'm trying not to be into the cards. Like, I'm trying to do this as like I'm having fun opening them, and then I mail them all out. I want them out of my house. But boy, it is an addiction.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have, like, everything has a subculture almost the size of comedies, if not more.
Yeah.
And you just delve into any of those, and you're like, oh, I can actually scratch an itch of a community.
Dude, I just pulled a $1,500 baseball card out of a $170 box of cards.
That's great.
I pulled an autographed Adley Rutschman numbered card, like perfect, a flawless card that Raw sells for $600, and I sent it out for grading. So like, it's going to come back a lot of money. It's funny because nobody says it's a bad thing, but I've infected a lot of people, a lot of the listeners of this show and the stuff I do with Adam Brown. They're like, I'm doing it. That Mark Jackson NBA hoops card, Dre Alvarez, who's one of my co-hosts, he's my co-host on the show Nerd that I do, started buying up old basketball cards because that's his favorite sport, and he just pulled that Mark Jackson card.
That's a card that I could see a Paul brother wearing around their neck. Do you know what I mean? Like a Jake or Logan. I know that one of them wore like
the Charizard.
The Charizard that was like, but like the OG. It's like $1 million Charizard, right? Yeah. Like a perfectly gradable. I could see that being like, as they grow older, continuing their sort of like, I like the lore around this trading, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Like that could be a necklace card for me.
I mean, what's his name? Post Malone just bought that Magic the Gathering, the One Ring.
Oh, yeah. That I don't understand Magic the Gathering at all. I understand that it's like played out like a way more complicated version of like Pokemon, but I don't understand how they have a Lord of the Rings thing in it.
I mean, I guess the basic idea is that Wizards of the Coast created this thing where like the two people playing, this is great. We did a whole episode on Magic the Gathering of Nerd. We did Star Wars, Magic Gathering, and Pokemon. We did the 3 card game series. And like Magic the Gathering, when you're playing, if we're playing a game, we're both wizards and we're casting spells at each other in a war.
Sure.
Basically. So like, I guess, you know, they don't just see, you think Lord of the Rings is weird to be involved in Magic the Gathering, but there's like Street Fighter cards.
Oh, that's so it's
way like, more crazy.
It's like Lego. Where just like, if we're gonna kind of see if we can throw some Harry Potter stuff in here to get a little bit of marketing and excitement back around it again. And
I think part of that is because Hasbro now owns Wizards of the Coast.
Sure.
So they're like, let's, you know, Hasbro.
Well, then what a perfect marketing thing to make this One Ring to Rule Them All card, like
the chase card to end all.
I guess you say like the Magic. I don't know the word for like the world of Magic type of like thing to exist is that ring.
Yeah. I mean, it's perfect. It's a perfect idea.
Did you pull the Tolkien in the World War II bunker card or in the World War I bunker? You just pulled Tolkien avoiding mustard gas.
Just stabbing a guy that got caught.
Jotting about an elf using the blood of a guy he bayoneted.
I think about, do you ever go to like Cracker Barrel? You ever go to Cracker Barrel? First off,
yeah,
it's great. They've perfected the casual dining experience, but that's beyond that. I always get really bummed out when I look over at the walls and there's always like a photo of a graduating class from like 1915. And you're like, one of these guys died being tangled in barbed wire trying to kill the Kaiser.
Oh, I have had this conversation with people on Never Seen It before about why there's not more, like, why there's so many more World War II than World War I movies, aside from like Hitler being a good thing to focus them around, like a common
You heard
bad
it
guy.
Here, folks. Kyle Ayers, Hitler is a good thing.
That's a great sound clip. But aside from like having that like very visible,
you have a
Nazis are a
villain.
much more visible villain, right? It's a lot more like black and white.
World War I was alliances. Right. Like that's what it was. Like World War I was just a bunch of friends pulling each other into the fight.
Look, I mean, if we really break it down into long movies, and we all wonder why any of it happened, but it also, the combat in World War I is so horrific.
So
it's
so
just not even
a
like, there's no way to show it without it being the worst thing anyone's ever seen.
Have you ever seen trench knives? Have you ever seen what they look like?
Oh, I've been to the World War I museum, is in Kansas City. And it's a really crazy museum. And even you're just like, what? How? These were like, and then you see someone who in real life who's 19.
Yeah. And you look at these children and you're like, you were stabbing people with a sharp pyramid.
Yeah.
Designed to make sure that a wound can never close.
Yeah.
Like it was to the point where that's where trench coats come from, by the way, folks. Like in case you were wondering where a trench coat comes from and why it's called that, they were armor. They were designed as armor, which is just insane.
And now they hide watches.
Yeah, that's and various bootleg DVDs. You want to see Avengers? It's like that movie's like 11 years old.
Like I All Quiet on the Western Front, both of them I think are really wonderful. 1917 I liked a lot.
1917 was incredible.
One of my last pre-COVID movies.
Yeah.
But you're just like, oh, anytime it gets into straight, it is so horrific. And World War II movies, Saving Private Ryan, very horrific. A lot of
turns out war.
Yeah,
horror in it.
But you know what Saving Private Ryan has? Downtime, where they just go somewhere.
It's a refractory period. Yeah. You literally have to relax during that.
Yeah.
Because also war has downtime.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like Forrest Gump, I think covers it weirdly well. Where they're like, yeah, you're kind of bored and around for a while, and then your friend explodes.
So similarly, I feel like Band of Brothers has a lot of like, so we're just sort of in this church this month.
Yeah, I guess this is our,
and we know they're right over there. Well, so I don't know why we're talking so much about, but like in World War I, when they had the ceasefire on Christmas Day,
the Christmas armistice, the soccer
and
game.
Then you just got to be like, see you tomorrow, but in literally the worst circumstances.
Yeah. I mean, it's fighting for 10 feet of land. So you try to push the guy back.
What is that joke about the time traveler where he's like, a time traveler goes back and he talks to a guy. He's like, the guy was like, I fought in the Great War. And he was like, 1 or 2. And the guy was like, what?
Excuse me? What was that? Yeah. What was that second part?
I mean,
yeah, that is really funny.
Getting into another one after the first one.
Yeah, this is going to get a sequel.
It's their kids.
But I will say that, it is very like, it's very Godfather 2 as far as you're like, well, you got to understand that the first one was big.
The performances in the second one are going to be slightly more cartoonish, but much more heralded.
Yeah, it's going to be lauded. But yeah, you're going to see clear lines of delineation.
The star is not going to look like any of the people he supports.
Yeah. Woof. So you mentioned Never Seen It, which is a fascinating podcast. Okay. So this is actually something that I wanted to, when I was researching the show, you're an idea man.
Yeah, I like doing stuff, and then I like stopping it. I like ending things.
Yeah. So it's very, and I was trying to find a way to find a comparison, and the only one that I could come up with was Phoebe Waller-Bridge, where somebody comes up with an idea, they're like, actually have the audacity to execute the idea, which is one of the hardest things to do, and why most people don't achieve success is they'll have an idea and then they'll be like, all right, let's keep moving.
Oh yeah, you see ideas, you see things happen, lots of people be like, oh, I just thought about this.
Yeah.
And like, well, yeah, but that person made it.
Yeah, you should have actually done something about it. Yeah. I'm that way. I have a project that I've been trying to work on for years, and I just haven't had the time or ability to get it off the ground. And I'm like, someone's going to do this, and it's going to me.
I have had these various like show ideas, sort of like conceptual circa comedy shows.
Yeah.
And generally, to get them going, I will have to book dates to do them before I even start planning them. Because once someone else is relying on it to happen for me, or I'll embarrass myself. Yeah. Like I booked a whole play once before I wrote it.
Is that primarily because, like, do you feel like you have a responsibility to an audience, or do you feel like you're more competitive?
Really easily if I have to bail, and I have no motivation ever to do anything.
Yeah, because which is so weird that you don't have motivation, because I look at it and, like, obviously you've made it onto Conan. You brought that up, and you have podcast Never Seen It. You've done Boast Rattle, which it was funny because Boast Rattle and Toast Battle came out, I remember, at the same time, which was a reaction to Roast Battle, where everyone was being mean, and then people were like, well, we should do it when we're being nice. And it became a thing. And then you start to be like, I didn't see anybody accuse anybody else of stealing anything, because I feel like everybody got it, that it's like, of course we're going to do this.
Sure. I mean, there was I don't want to get this. I don't like comedy drama, like comedy scene drama. Someone who ran a similar show messaged me once and told me I was stealing their thing. And I was bringing the show out to Los Angeles, and they messaged me about it. And I was like, well, I've been doing this long. Here's the first time I did it. And then they were like, oh, geez, well, don't accuse us of stealing yours, please. And then they never got messaged me again.
That's unfortunate.
And I'm like, well, I didn't, but like they were just very aggressive. It's you know what I mean? Like very aggressively upset about it. And I was like, it's kind of just like, once again, it's not like the deepest thought.
Yeah.
But the execution is where the work is.
Fair. Real quick, I was going to say something and I forgot. I want to talk about Never Seen It. I want to talk about movie trivia.
Yeah.
Well. Movie trivia, sorta. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, the movie trivia night I do.
And Boast Rattle. Before we do that, I do want to mention, by the way, that I have producers on the show. I have people that give extra money. And when they do that, I say their name or pretty much whatever they want me to say on here, because I am check the notes, whore. Because I'm a whore. So if you want to head over to patreon.com/Jeff May, you can sign up for the producer tier or the two-face tier, and I will say your name up here. The two-face tier, you also get in the mail, by the way. So I want to say thank you to the following 20-ish individuals. Shout out to Justin Wood, Bart Fartigan, Dan Adamski, world's humblest man. Shout out to Norm from Cheers, Dan Hackroyd. Mindfreak 555 says crayfish number 5 is dead. Long live crayfish 6. I feel like that's like a Manchurian Candidate activation code.
Right. You're the Winter Soldier now.
Sometimes they say and I'm just like, I don't know what this means, but sometimes I'll be like, is this racist? And then they are like, no, here's what it means. And I was like, oh, okay. As long as it's not actually racist. I don't want to get caught being like,
Yeah. Anyway, shout out to Wander Franco Innocent.
Yeah. Shout out to Smash the Zog. Oh, I don't know what that. Shout out to Eat and Die, the Goonies. I hate that movie.
I have not seen it.
You're fine. Don't.
It's Sloth from the Goonies is really what I actually did it on Never Seen It one time.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's not good, but people really do like being 8. So
yeah.
Check out this month's Nerd with Dre and Jeff. We are covering Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, in our finale of batshit sequels to popular films. Did you ever see that one?
I haven't. Never
seen Ninja Turtles. Do you ever see the first Ninja Turtles?
I'm missing a lot. This new
that
one
is fun. How old are you?
35.
I understand that you haven't seen it, but I'm not okay with it. That's one of the few, like the first Ninja Turtles, because you would have been, let's see, you're 35, so you would have been 4 years old when that came out.
Sure.
Seems like it would have hit your purview at some point in time.
You would think that. I don't know if we had a VCR really.
What were you watching as a kid?
Nothing. Sure. I'm trying to think like what I watched when I was little.
Yeah, what does Kansas City offer as far as watching is concerned? Did you guys just watch
The Simpsons
barbecue being made?
Yeah, we'd watch one show for 48 hours on channel 280.
It was just like meat on a spit.
I watched The Simpsons and I liked that.
That's fair.
I didn't really watch any live sitcoms. Some like Nickelodeon stuff, I think, at some point.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's all right.
I'm not really can't remember the shows like Rocco and those sorts of like Nickelodeon shows.
Starring Carlos Rocky.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, the Taco Bell Chihuahua is also Rocco.
Oh, and what a decade.
That Carlos is Reno 911. Like that dude.
Really?
That dude works.
Great career.
Yeah. And also super nice person.
Yeah.
Which you don't always get when a comedian gets famous.
Yeah. Oh, and I loved Looney Tunes. I loved Marvin the
Those are
Martian
great.
episodes of Looney Tunes and Roadrunner episodes of Looney Tunes.
Those are so good. Looney Tunes is, in my opinion, mostly flawless. That
Really,
the Chuck's,
truly, if you can like remove racial references,
yeah,
and ethnic, like
the stereotyping
any
of the time,
ethnicity
yeah.
stereotyping, it holds up pretty well aside from like Pepe Le Pew.
Yeah, Pepe Le Pew, you know, I mean, yeah, it was, I mean, they were really just making fun of French people at that point in time for being lascivious or whatever.
Yeah, I did always, it's bizarre. I used to have this thought where the older you get, the more you start to realize Daffy was right and Bugs was mean. But like when you're a kid, Bugs is funny. And then when you grow up, you're like,
he's an ass.
Why would he put that sign up? It's not duck season.
Yeah, not at all. Why are you trying to kill your friend?
Yeah.
I think Daffy is just like a man in his 30s. Right. And Bugs is a man in his 20s.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. I'm genuinely floored that you've never seen the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
That is I'm not a person 80s to like mid 90s.
Blank spot.
Never seen Karate Kid. Never seen Princess Bride. Never seen like a lot of that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? That tone, Hook, RoboCop. I have never seen.
Okay, that one.
RoboCop, I wouldn't put in the same exact category.
No, but well. To be fair, I was watching RoboCop when I was watching those other things.
I just saw Terminator last year.
It's a good movie.
In the first two were both very good.
And Terminator 2 is insane. Yeah,
Terminator 2 is one of these movies where you watch this and you're like, well, just let James Cameron do whatever he wants forever.
And that's what happened.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah, and then he's like,
I'm
fuck it, True Lies.
If you make some of these things, if you made The Sopranos, you shouldn't have to work anymore forever. I think that like if you make these things that are this great, you shouldn't have to do anything ever again.
If you contribute one major thing to, if you win an Oscar for Best Picture, you can be, you should get like a stipend for the rest.
If you make a forever hour, which is like a thing people will have to look at forever, and will willingly do, you shouldn't have to do anything anymore.
Has James Cameron not made a certified banger?
Right. I mean, he's very good at sequels.
The Abyss,
Titanic 2.
Is The Abyss the worst movie James Cameron's ever made? Because it's still good. Because he came swinging, right? Terminator, then Aliens, then The Abyss, then Terminator 2. What was after that? Then I know True Lies. Have you seen True Lies?
No.
That's one you got to see too.
I
wonder you have a show called Never Seen It.
There's a thing I really like about Arnold Schwarzenegger, who I know is in True Lies, that I am growing to really like about, what's Batista's first name?
Dave
Batista, which is that they work with challenging, odd, important directors. And a thing that I found sometimes the meatheads don't. Schwarzenegger loved it. He was like out of his comfort zone all of the time. He
went up to Ivan Reitman. I remember it was on the Schwarzenegger doc, and they were like, he walked up to Ivan Reitman and said, when are we going to do something like Ghostbusters? Because here's the thing people don't credit Schwarzenegger for. He's a genius. Like he's like a futurist. That man knows what is coming and he knows how to read it. Yeah. You know, for all of the negative proclivities that he might have had in having an affair and fathering a child with the maid and whatever, and being a Republican, he is one of the smartest people that Hollywood has ever seen. And his comedic timing is great. And that's how Twins happened.
His timing is great. And I believe he is also very good at understanding what people know better than him about what he's doing.
Yeah.
What is it? I mean, there's even like the famous part where he tried to tell in the first Terminator that the Terminator would say, I will be back.
Yeah. And Cameron's like, how about you shut the f up?
Yeah. He's like, you don't know what you like, but this is what I know what I'm doing with this. And then it's the most famous line of a decade.
Yep. He's like, I've made so much money off that one line. Isn't that insane? Those 3 words exploded a career. If you really think about it.
And also when you watch, I see this for the first time in the 2020s, right? Terminator.
Yeah.
It's like not that big of a deal in the movie.
No, not
like,
really.
it's not like a turn to the camera.
It is to the police.
Last action hero.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like a last action hero type of thing that him and Sylvester Stallone and Van Damme would do a lot of, like the now you're the hammer or whatever, like that sort of thing. It wasn't even that.
It's Schwarzenegger knew who he was, knew what people wanted, and wanted to stretch out. And Batista is the same way. When you look at like Batista in a movie, you can see he's clearly acting. And when you see John Cena in a movie, you can see he's John Cena.
I watched the M. Night Shyamalan knock at the cabin at the end of the world or whatever.
Dave Bautista's so good in that.
It is bizarre that you're like, this wrestler is easily the best part of this movie.
And not only that, but just like easily one of the more subtle actors that we have in society.
I mean, he really brought a lot to the unfortunately underwritten Drax in Guardians, which I thought was the weakest written of any
Boy, did
characters.
They really, that's the one thing I don't like is how they Dane cooked Drax, where like they found the one thing that people really liked about Drax, which was his like offhanded comments, and they were like, let's just do this all the time forever. Anyway, check out Nerd. It drops on Thursday.
Yeah. Watch
me use these prehensile nipples to pick up pennies off the floor. That's a lot of nipple talk in the producers, by the way. So we have that. So we have another one here. The wandering Jolly Holly unpierced left nipple of the Christmas fool. That is a thing somebody paid me money to say. Eat and die, Grand Canyon. Have you ever been?
Yes, I have.
How was it?
Awesome. It is crazy that it is as good as people say it is, because you're like, there's no fathomable reason that this should. I mean, it's like people think firework photos don't hold up.
True.
Or like a New York skyline photo doesn't hold up, or a sunset photo doesn't hold up. Dude, this is like, it was really wonderful.
I always feel like I'm not that invested in the idea that there's just like a hole in the ground.
I also was not. You see it, and I'm like, look at that part over there. And then there's a sign that's like, that's 20 miles away. And you're just like, oh, holy shit.
Oh, all right. Well,
also, there was a kid singing the Lion King opening song into the Grand Canyon, and it was like the most adorable something could be without being annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, you should have taken that kid.
You can't. I read about it.
You can't really kidnap.
No, she said her boyfriend's a baseball player.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. That makes sense. You don't want anybody that athletic coming after you.
If people don't know what I'm talking about, it's going to be the weirdest running reference.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, Tampa Bay Devil Rays rookie sensation Wander Franco has recently been revealed to potentially
allegedly
have been dating a 14-year-old, and he is a 22-year-old man. We cannot speculate that this did or did not happen and what the auspices are, but
right. They don't. How can you to date someone you guys can't talk about the same Disney Channel original shows?
That's why I can't date women that aren't age appropriate. Because every time I'll be like, hey, do you remember? No.
Brink.
No, you don't remember. We did not have the same commercials. If I sing the Crossfire theme to you,
I know what you're caught up in. Crossfire.
Yeah. Crossfire.
Okay. I'll go to any length to not talk about myself, including repeatedly talking about an alleged pedophile.
Bro, it's just going to stretch out the episode. I got shit I want to talk about. So we have who wins in the what if crossover we truly deserve. Doo-doo suit Bruce versus doo-doo suit Logan. That is a very inside baseball reference, and not the inside baseball that we've been talking about Wolverine and Batman. Do you like nerd shit? You don't. Yeah. You don't really hit me as like a big nerd.
I like the stuff. I like it all. I didn't consume too much growing up. I only read some Spider-Man comics that a teacher gave me in middle school. So I wasn't really into comics, but like Spider-Man came out when I was in middle school,
yeah.
I liked Lord of the Rings. I've read Lord of the Rings. That I was very into.
Okay.
That's probably the only thing I consumed, and then consumed the movies and continue to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. The movies really did do it justice.
Absolutely bonkers that they're that good. I was just talking with Bailey about this the other day because she's obsessed with Lord of the Rings.
Oh, nice.
About how
that's convenient that you both like the same thing.
It's just actually I think the movies are so much more accessible than the books.
Really?
I mean, it's so fun because at no part
you
of the
only
movie
need
is
3.5 hours total to watch.
At no part in the movie is there 95 minutes about a sword that doesn't come back up.
It's the Gaffigan book. It's the book bit. where someone's like,
Oh
oh,
yeah,
I
it's like,
watched the
oh,
movie. Oh,
no
the movie.
reading.
Oh, the book is better. Oh, you know what I liked about the movie? No reading.
Yeah,
I was
over
done
an hour
in
and a half.
95 minutes. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
there is that aspect of it where like I do certainly like to read stuff, but
Mhm.
at the same time, I'm like, well, it's the same story.
Some fantasy is work.
Oh yeah, have you ever read like a Shannara book or some shit?
I can't get into too much of it.
That's
I mean, even like it's so funny. Game of Thrones is not massively accessible to read.
Unless you want to read 4 pages about a meal.
Right. But everyone got, the show until it wasn't was so great that a bunch of people then dove into. I have to wonder if this is happening with Dune, which has 800 versions of books and amounts of lengths you can invest into this thing to be one movie. I have not seen Dune the movie. I'm waiting. I want it to come. Once it comes back in theaters, I'm going to go see it, and then I'm assuming that they'll roll it back through
Part
at
2,
least
yeah.
the theater before the second one comes out because I think it looks beautiful.
It's one of those I will say it's not as accessible even as a movie when you're watching it and you're like, all right.
It felt your book in a movie. I said this the other night, and I do kind of think this as a joke where I'm like watching a whole TV show is reading now.
Kind of.
Because it's like that's how we at least how much time we spend dissecting and talking about things.
I've been lucky that my roommate and we like to watch shows together. Like we'll have certain shows that we watch that and we kind of hit it, but she likes to like deep dive. Like she'll go on IMDb and find like perfectly rated shows and be like, have you watched Counterpart with J.K. Simmons? And I was like, I didn't even know this was a thing. And we've been watching that show and it's incredible. Like we bought it. We paid money for it because you couldn't stream it. And it was amazing. It's amazing. And I'd never heard of this show before, like a prestige show about alternate realities starring J.K. Simmons.
I worked at a deli in college with sort of like I would say he's like the cool. He showed me like Mr. Show, right?
Yeah,
and
great.
I had a radio show with some guys, and he was one of them, like a college radio show. So he's like, "This is Radiohead. This is Mr. Show." I never really listened to a lot of music growing up that was my time. So I'm getting it was very, he was like my cool media. Loved Andy Richter Controls the Universe. Loved these comedies.
One of my favorite jokes in history was from Andy Richter Controls the Universe.
It's really funny.
During the sensitivity training, when the guy gets in the front and he just starts yelling, he's like, Puerto Rican steel, blacks are lazy. And he's like, wow, he really did get to us by saying all these awful, ugly stereotypes in front of us to really confront who we are. And then the teacher comes in and goes, hey, what are you doing? Get back in your seat. And the guy sits down. It's a perfect joke.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. I love this was like my cool get into nice, like Peep Show, right? Like you should watch Peep Show. And like, here's the weird DVDs. Cause this was the time where like you had to have like a burned bootleg or go to the cool 9th Street video shop.
Region DVD.
Right. Oh, there's another nerd thing, I guess. I'm not that into anime, but I loved Dragon Ball and the world, all of its respective letters.
Can't get into
it. It's not good. And it's too long. All the jokes about it are so wildly justified about how even for anime, it's like nothing. They won't progress the story.
Like all narration, right? Like sometimes,
Dude,
like it's
there won't
progression.
It'll be two characters talking for 5 episodes at each other before they fight. There's a lot of good edits.
But that's got to be good writing if you can keep people.
No, you want to watch them fight that bad. But I mean, I've seen like good edits of it that go from like it's like 93 episodes down to like 30, and it's so much more fun to watch.
Sequential anime is hard for me to get into, except I'm trying to get better access to Hajime no Ippo, which is a boxing anime. And just because, and like a fan sent me the first volume on DVD, and I watched it, and I was like, yes. This is what
it is such an interesting thing to try. What I really wanted was a Dragon Ball Z PlayStation 1 game. And I didn't have a PlayStation 1, but my friend Bryce did. And he actually knew how to trick your PlayStation around the regional limitations.
Yep.
So you'd have to like have a different game start the loading, and then you have to pop the thing open, the lid, while it's spinning. Stop it, take it out, put the Dragon Ball game in, let it start spinning with the lid open, and then shut it at the right time, and it would read it. And we'd play. And the game would be all in Japanese, so we'd have to like our way through the menu.
Wow,
just to try and play this game.
Unhinged.
I mean, I don't even remember it was like a BA up down,
left right BA.
Like in the craziest possible actual physical adjustment to the system.
That's like when the X-Men Genesis game, when you actually had to hit reset when it tells you to reset the computer on the screen. Really had to reset and that would trigger the process. Got a lot of people very angry. Yeah, like I like theatrical anime a lot. Like all the big ones, Akira. Have you ever seen Akira?
No.
Dude, honestly, like if Akira goes back in theaters sometime, we should absolutely see it in a theater. It is one of the most breathtaking things you'll ever see. And it has the world building of Blade Runner without being boring.
That is a movie that I also just watched for the first time. I really wanted to watch Blade Runner 2049. I just love everything about it. Director, the look,
yeah. What'd you think about Blade Runner, the first one?
So this is within the last year as well, maybe year and a half. I watched what do they call it? The final, which is like the director.
The final cut. Yeah, that's the one I saw too.
And it was tough to get through. I thought the first 10 minutes was incredible.
Yes. Once the world building is, yeah.
There's something and this is another thing that comes up on Never Seen It a lot, where when something has created the referential, sometimes it's difficult to go back and enjoy.
Yeah.
And Blade Runner was so revolutionary in maybe not even knowing it was doing it, but in a lot of the ways that things look, and a lot of like sci-fi tropes, and especially what would you call it, like dystopian sci-fi.
It's neon noir.
Yeah, not like insane. It's a little cyberpunky, but neon noir is a better name for it. But a lot of that look and style is all, you're like, well, everything lifts Blade Runner. The thing that I always find the funniest with sci-fi is that even the invented tech is limited to the tech of the time.
Yeah, Star Trek is really the only thing that was like, cell phones will be a thing someday. I guess.
Know, it's so funny. They're just like, you still have a DOS screen in like the year wasn't it the year 2022 actually, when Blade Runner took place, or 2021?
Or is it? I don't know, 2015. Who knows?
But it fairly recently happened. Anyways, sorry.
I thought Blade Runner was ridiculously overrated when I finally saw it, and I was like, "Oh, it's 2019. Is when it comes out. Is when it is supposed to have happened." I think what I really like too is The Fifth Element has the energy to me of Blade Runner with the lights turned on. When you see like what the planet looks like, and they show you like how it's like, yeah, it's dingy and gross even when the lights are on. Yeah. All right, a couple more producers. Sorry, this is the good part. We get it sparks conversation. The producer formerly known as the Ghost of Dave Thomas. I haven't had carbs or sugar in a couple weeks. I fantasize about deli sandwiches now. You ever do one of those purges?
No. Sugar sometimes, or at least I try.
It's hard.
Yeah,
it is hard. Do you have a favorite deli sandwich? What's your favorite? What's your ingredient?
I used to work at a deli.
You mentioned that.
And I would make a peppered turkey melt sandwich that I liked. That was like,
what's your sauce?
This one was like a buffalo ranch sort of like sauce thing that would go on there.
I with that. That sounds great. A little melted cheese on there.
Yeah. I'm usually a light, like when it's a thick sauce like that and a less vinegar based sauce, I'm lighter with it usually, because I don't want it to be.
You don't have too lack of texture as well.
But it was pretty good sandwich.
Shout out to Aldo Vargas, is a couple months behind us his podcasts, but he'll hear this eventually. I ran into him at Comic-Con, actually. Hi, your friendly neighborhood mortician here. Phone and email passwords can unlock a lot of your financial info. Consider sharing them with someone you trust. No.
Sure.
Not going to do that. I don't want anybody knowing that.
Shout out to let the mystery. Just let there be a mystery.
Yeah. Like, you want to find my money? You better go on a treasure hunt.
You need to see how many espresso subreddits I subscribe to.
I went on Reddit once because I was on a behind the and I wanted to see what people thought. And boy, that is a cesspool.
Sure.
That place. Woof.
Yeah, they love them.
Yeah. I think I was called ableist for saying the word ridiculous. Do you know where that word comes from? I'm like, I'm sorry. I guess I should go to hell. Shout out to Mr. Billy Beck, and shout out to the To Be Terror Bunny thinks you should watch more Rutger Hauer films. A very famous Rutger Hauer film being Blade Runner. So look at that.
There you go.
You don't have to watch that one. And the scene in Meet Joe Black where Brad Pitt dies. Again, if you want to be a patron of a producer level, head on over to patreon.com/JeffMay. Never seen it. This is a show. I did sort of an interim episode, a non-main show version of the show. A lot of fun, a lot of games. The general show is you have people show up writing a short script of like a scene from a show or a movie that they've never seen. Is that basically it?
Yeah, comedians rewrite scenes from famous movies they've never seen.
Where did that idea come from?
I legitimately just got tired of talking about The Wire at parties. I had not seen it, and I just was like, I've learned enough about The Wire. I lived in Bushwick, so if you don't talk about prestige TV, you can't bring up rent because everyone else's parents pays theirs. So I I learned enough about The Wire permeating into my soul from conversations that
you just kind of faked it.
Started fake. I was like, I love Omar. I can't believe they changed the themes every season. Season 3 was a little slower, but you got to stick through it because it pays off. It like becomes, you're just like, what am I even talking about? So I was like, I bet I could even write an episode of this show, right?
Well, that's like that's similar to when you did Making a Murderer.
Oh, yeah.
Where you just had people come on and talk about a show. And
so that was, the Faking a Murderer was a little bit after Never Seen It had existed as a live show.
Okay.
Never seen it. So I wrote this Wire script, and I've never seen Jaws. And that was my first ever, like I did that as a live show script where I rewrote Jaws and had some comedians act it out. And I had like a few other comedians write stuff and did live shows and blah, 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 and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And this took, I ran as a live show for a long time. I moved out here, and Starburns Audio wanted me to pitch them podcasts, and I pitched this idea, and they were like, no, we don't see how that could carry a full episode. And I was like, well, let me try one. So we did it, and then that's sort of how we got here.
And they were like, wow.
Yeah.
So did they hit you up like when you came out there? Like,
I was already running Boast Rattle, and one of the people who worked at Starburns was the booker at the New York Comedy Festival, so he knew me from Boast Rattle there. And so that's sort of what led to like the connection,
And you're an idea guy, so they're like, I know an idea guy. Like that's interesting. That must be weird to know about yourself, that you're like, look, I am a weird idea person. And I like that a lot. That's one of the things I really like about you, in that you are I have an idea and I'm going to activate it person, which I think is.
Once someone else will be disappointed in me if I don't do it, I can execute. If it's purely for my own, I won't get anything done.
Yeah, that's fair.
I have no self-drive, but I am able to we'll book a venue and people before the idea is completed.
Never Seen It. Is it going to live as a podcast now forever? Do you still do it live?
Goal is to animate them. That's my eventual goal, is to animate them and make them into cartoons. I think that the best way to elevate it would be like an animated Drunk History.
Yeah.
I see it as just Drunk History, people, these recreations, because I've acted them out on stage enough times as well. But I think animating it allows you more freedom, because Drunk History could just reuse the same costumes for everything. I think that I also believe that this is such a universal thing, because if you name a movie, everyone either has or hasn't seen it. And so, whereas a show like Drunk History, eventually you're like, I don't even know what the this historic event is that you're talking about. You could do The Godfather 70 times on my show. You could do Blade Runner 15 times. It's just a universal, repeatable, easily understandable, universal joke.
It's funny too, because we had talked about doing an episode, and I was like, I've never seen the Fast and Furious movies, and you were like, a lot of people have never seen those, and we've done it kind of a lot.
There are a few things that as weird, like Fast and Furious is probably done like 7 or 8 times, so I have it on the not at the moment.
That's gonna
for
be
a while.
Really
Pretty Woman was on the not at the moment, because I did like 3 within 4 months.
Really?
And I was like, well, I would probably do it again now, but still, it's 1% of my episodes.
Yeah, that's kind of a lot.
Is a lot.
It's also like when you said that, and you were like, but it's been a while, so we can probably do that. And I was like, how about I just find a lot of the other stuff I've never done,
right?
Instead of just being like,
Fast and Furious just never leaves the zeit. Everyone's always kind of thinking about it, because one is either has or is about to come out.
It's funny when Adam Todd Brown, when we rebranded the Unpopular Opinion Network as You Don't Even Like Podcasts, we were going to do our first episode was because neither of us have watched the Fast and Furious movies except Hobbs and Shaw. And we saw that together in the theater and immediately forgot everything that happened as soon as you walked out of the theater. And we were going to have a race to see who could watch all 10 movies. And that was going to be our thing. And then we realized that we did not have an extra like 30 hours or whatever to actually do that.
I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. And then stuff not paying off. I don't remember when I was lost in them. I've seen up to some point in Fast and Furious. I can't not remember when because they quit naming them anything where you can remember where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
one's just called Ampersand, I think.
Yeah. And yeah. I saw that was like, they started really quick of the like changing. It was like the fourth one was
the second one referenced to, then the third one was Tokyo Drift, and then they never really, I think they kind of sometimes use numbers a little bit sometimes after that.
Yeah.
But
it is weird that we're just saying like, now this movie is Scream. Yeah. But we have Scream and like, but this one is Scream.
Yeah.
But so like, is it like a reboot? And like, nope. No, it's technically it's a continuation of the story. It is.
I don't understand. There can only be one. Like Michael B. Jordan has to put his middle initial in, but we can have 17 movies with the same name.
We have how many Halloweens are there? Right. There are 3 movies that are called Halloween. That is unhinged. Yeah. And it's like, oh, are they all different movies? No, it's generally the same movie.
Yeah, one person in it is a different age.
Yeah. And poor Jamie Lee Curtis.
She'll be okay.
She's gonna be okay. Yeah, she's an Oscar winner. She's fine.
So, that's where the show came from. And now it resonates because most people, especially people in entertainment, have these gaps that sometimes you're quote unquote shamed for not having seen, right?
That to me, I mean, granted, I kind of did that to you with Ninja Turtles, but that was more shock than shame. I've never understood people that get angry that these like, how have you never seen blank? And it's like, I don't know why you got to be an ass because I just didn't watch a movie.
Right.
Like I had shit to do. I don't know what you want me to do. What's your one movie that you want someone to do that they haven't done?
I'm not even sure at this point. We've really knocked out so many of these.
Yeah.
I can't even think of I don't think I've ever had someone do like The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. That's hard to have never seen that.
It is. Or I've even had someone do The Lion King, the movie I thought the most people have seen. And I still probably do believe. I do believe that it might be the most.
It might be Aladdin or The Lion King. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say like Aladdin is that sweet spot of where everybody had a VCR by then. And it was just earlier. So it has the extra couple of years of viewership.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's gotta be a Disney animated, like
one of those two. I would put both of those above Snow White or Cinderella though.
Sure, yeah, because that was back when there was like 90 people.
Yeah,
when those came out.
Yeah, but I don't think we've ever had someone do either of those.
Yeah. Also,
we've had The Lion King one time.
Yeah. Did you ever see the live action remakes?
I hated the Lion King one so much.
Yeah.
Just for how it looked and how it made me feel. It felt like I was watching The Irishman. Like I was just like, this isn't how any of these are supposed to look on there.
Yeah, that Uncanny Valley is.
I haven't seen any of the other ones. No.
I would suggest The Jungle Book and then none of the other ones.
I've heard good things about The Jungle Book.
I saw The Jungle Book and I was like, this is great. I really like this. They're doing good work.
But I've never seen the cartoon.
And then it doesn't matter. And then I saw, what was the other one that I saw that was just Aladdin. I saw Aladdin over the pandemic. And that was just a steaming heap of shit.
Yeah, that probably happens.
It was just awful. And then I was like, I don't think I ever need to watch these again, right?
Yeah, then it made $1 billion like they all do. And so they're never going to stop.
Yeah. Why would they stop? Why would Disney stop? They're also not paying the people that created the stories, which is insane.
That must be the first time that's ever happened to anybody.
I know, right? There certainly isn't a strike about it. I know we have to get going soon because you're great. So we're going to keep you around for some little Patreon exclusive material here for those of you that like to give me money. Kyle, September 15th, the Elysian Theater.
Yeah.
Do you have any tours or anything coming up?
No. I'm not my physical condition makes flying not super exciting.
Oh yeah,
So nothing. I'm trying to set up more shows to run this. It's a weird pitch to a lot of places, but no, really, this is what I have. I run fake movie trivia in Los Angeles the last Monday of every month, where
And
it's
where's
like
that?
subjective. It's like some real trivia questions and some subjective ones. I think last month it was like, what did Christopher Nolan have for lunch? Was like one of the questions, and whoever puts the best answer gets more points and things like that.
That is great. That is really. And where is that? What's the
Secret Movie Club, which if you're in LA is just a thing you should check out anyways. They do a bunch of cool screenings, and they're very like unpretentiously film bro-y about like projection and proper sound, and they have a theater and blah blah blah.
It's funny because that's actually the movie trivia is one of the bonus things I want to talk to you about. So I'm glad that you brought that up. So we have KyleAyers.com, KyleAyers.com. You can also get your album Happiness.
Yeah.
Available on vinyl.
Yeah, I do have some on vinyl still, I think. But just it links to everything at KyleAyers.com or wherever you find people.
Find Kyle on the socials at Kyle Ayers, one word. Is that right? And just generally appreciate and go watch his Conan set. It's great. He doesn't have a microphone. People think it's weird. Comment on it. Kyle, you're great. You're super, super talented, super, super funny. And I'm really glad I got to spend some time talking to you about it.
Yeah. All
right. And for those of you that are patrons, stick around. If you're not a patron and you're listening to this for free, thank you for your ears. I would like you so much more if you gave me money. Head on over to patreon.com/Jeff May for early access to uncensored episodes with bonus content. Not only do you get the bonus content on this show, but you get access to shows like Ugh Fine with Kim Crawl, as well as early access to Nerd with Dre Alvarez. And again, that episode on Ninja Turtles 2 drops this Thursday. So that's going to be, what, the 17th? August 17th is dropping early on my Patreon. If you want to hear me talk Tom and Jeff Watch Batman is on Gamefully Unemployed. You don't even like Podcast Network. I do. You don't even like this show. You don't even like sports as well as the video. You don't even like sports cards, where Adam Todd Brown and I open sports cards. I open non-sports cards on I Must Break You on both my YouTube and Instagram. And damn it, that's a lot of stuff. Kyle.
Yeah.
Tell everyone goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank all the so freeloaders, anyway.
Come to the Elysian, or at least follow me, and I'll talk to you about my brain.
Absolutely go to the Elysian. I've only seen 10 minutes of this material and it's fantastic. So absolutely go for it. For those of you that are patrons, stick around. We've got a little bit of Bone Con coming your way. All right. Say bye. Bye.
Bye.
Hey everyone. Our artwork is created by Justin T. Brown, who can be found at Artness by Justin Brown on Instagram, as well as artnessbyjustinbrown.com. That dope music you heard is by Troy Nababon, available at Troy Nababon on Instagram, as well as at troynababon.com. Nababon is spelled Nababan, and boy, does that shred. Thank you all so much for listening. See you next time.